Well now, we have two new things happening in today's video. For one, I have a camera now. So now, I get to show everyone the man behind the work. The second one is that I'm doing a double review. This won't be something I'll always be doing, but I figured this video could be a test of how well it goes for future reviews. Not to mention the first game I'll be covering isn't long at all. You can finish it in a few hours. So with all that said, let's finally begin. This is my royal review of the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Adventure 2. Let's begin the video. Okay, I know the title says otherwise, but trust me, no one actually murdered Sonic the Hedgehog. Give me a minute to explain. So a few days before April Fool's, we would get a sudden teaser that Sonic was found murdered, but in reality that wasn't the case. It was soon revealed to be an April Fool's game called Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, where you and the rest of Sonic's friends try to solve the mystery of who murdered Sonic. The story begins with you working as a train associate and getting yourself familiar with the train. A few minutes later, you find out that the guests that will be appearing are Sonic and the rest of his friends to celebrate Amy's birthday. The birthday game is a murder mystery to discover who would later murder Sonic. So with the help of Tails and Amy, the three of you try to uncover the hidden truth of what happened to Sonic while the rest of the cast play their roles. Like I said before, this game is short and should take a few hours to complete, but even though it may be a short game, it has a lot of charm and fun moments that I don't want to spoil too much for those who haven't played it yet. As you play the game, you'll encounter great dialogue from your favorite characters, and they honestly did make me smile and laugh a few times. This game is easy. You simply need to move the mouse around to find hidden clues to progress through the story. And then we have this small mini game that you play that's also fun to play around with. It also helps that this game is completely free to play, so you don't have to worry about losing too much money. But I will say this, it's not every day that we get to see Sega make small games like this. I wouldn't mind them making more small Sonic projects that had every Sonic character just hanging out. But I think that's enough of Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. It's about time we get into the true meat of the video, Sonic Adventure 2.
The ultimate life form.
Chaos control.
Space prayer.
Supersonic collision. Untamed power of chaos and
Professor Gerald, the truth about 50 years ago.
Everything.
Sonic Adventure 2. Last episode. Wishes are eternal.
Me and Sonic Adventure 2 have a small history together. When I was really young, I recall having a Sega Dreamcast and the only game that came with it was Sonic Adventure 2. The only issue was that it turned out to be a small demo that only had City Escape, and it didn't even come with a disc. I think it was an already installed demo within the system, and whenever it ended, it would always show me clips of the entire game that I couldn't get my hands on because I had no idea what the game was called at the time. And once again, since I was probably a toddler during that time, I soon lost interest because there was nothing left to do. But now since I'm able to play it on the PS3, let's get into the game, shall we? In the game there's a hero story and a dark story that shows the 6 characters' stories, with the last story segment being unlocked after completing both. Once again, I'll connect the stories as simple and clean as possible. Let's begin. Deep within the military force gun's prison island is Dr. Eggman. His mission is to uncover the secret weapon that was sealed away and created by his grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. Once he gets deeper to the base, he unlocks the secret weapon that was frozen and is revealed to be a black hedgehog named Shadow. After dealing with the remaining security, he tells Eggman to meet in Space Colony Ark while he locates and steals a Chaos Emerald located in Station Square. Later on, we see Sonic inside a helicopter, arrested by Gun, but manages to escape with no problem. He soon finds out that the reason why he's been arrested and tracked down is all because of Shadow, since they look alike. Now listen, I'm fully aware that they both look similar, but how did the military ever get these two confused? Sonic is a hedgehog with blue quills, green eyes, and was also the one who saved Station Square from the giant mutated Chaos. Shadow is a hedgehog with black quills, red stripes, and red eyes. Wouldn't the military have any sort of record of who Shadow was? Remember, he was locked and frozen inside Prison Island for 50 years. Wouldn't they have been able to identify who Shadow was based on his escape to begin with? There's even a moment where the news reporter gets a nice zoomed view of Shadow, yet they still think it's Sonic. Back to the story, Sonic attempts to take down Shadow, but with the power of Chaos Control, Shadow is able to escape by teleportation, while Sonic once again gets arrested. Not long after, Dr. Eggman meets with Shadow in Space Colony Ark. Shadow explains to Eggman that he can use the power of the Ark's laser to take over Earth, but since the Ark has been down for many years, it requires the power of all 7 Chaos Emeralds to activate, not just one will be enough. Then comes Rouge the Bat, a treasure hunter who's secretly an agent of Gun who offers the two her help by giving up the locations of the other Chaos Emeralds, with Shadow and Eggman agreeing rather easily. The location of the Chaos Emeralds brings the three back to Prison Island, where they plan to explode the island after stealing the Chaos Emeralds. Meanwhile, Tails is in the tornado flying to save Sonic after finding out he was arrested. His plans are derailed after he spots Amy, who is also in Prison Island, cornered by Dr. Eggman after she mistook Shadow for Sonic. Amy, come on! You know Sonic for quite some time now, so how could you have possibly mistaken Shadow for Sonic? After saving Amy, both are able to find and rescue Sonic. During the escape, Sonic encounters Shadow and the two have a battle before cutting it short after realizing the island will soon explode. Sonic escapes with Amy and Tails, and Shadow uses Chaos Control to save Rouge, just mere seconds before the island explodes. Now that Team Dark has 6 of the 7 Chaos Emeralds, they decide to use the Ark's laser cannon since the power they need is enough to fire it. And after broadcasting to Earth, they demonstrate its power by firing straight to the moon, blasting it in half. It threatens to the Earth that they will use the laser cannon again in 24 hours if the President does not surrender to the Eggman Empire. Meanwhile on Earth, Tails gets the idea to find Eggman by locating the President to find where he's hiding. They soon find the President and discover that Eggman is located in the Ark. Wait, I feel like I'm forgetting someone. Oh right, Knuckles, who I completely didn't forget was in the game. So earlier in the story, Knuckles had an encounter with Rouge for her trying to steal the Master Emerald. During the fight, Eggman attempted to steal the Master Emerald, but before he could get away, Knuckles destroys the Master Emerald, causing it to spread once again, and he's been tracking them down ever since. When Sonic, Tails, and Amy get to Eggman's base, he decides to help them out after finding out Rouge is working with Eggman. When they head inside Eggman's base, they use the spaceship that's conveniently kept there to fly up to the Ark, but soon separate with Knuckles when the Emerald Shards fly out of the rocket.
Is everyone alright? We should be landing soon!
The hatch doors are
Don't
open!
sweat it, Knuckles! The only thing in the cargo bay are those
What do you
Master
mean, don't
Emeralds.
sweat it?
Right?
Land the
Knock
shuttle
it
and
off,
let me
Knuckles.
out!
We're gonna crash this thing if you keep that up! Oh no! Don't touch that lever! Whoa!
When they safely land, Tails gives Sonic a fake emerald that looks identical to the real Chaos Emerald, but isn't as powerful. The plan is to connect it to the laser cannon with the rest of the emeralds so that it can malfunction and be destroyed. However, because they somehow forgot Amy was with them, she gets kidnapped by Eggman, who threatens to Sonic to bring the Chaos Emerald in exchange for Amy's safety. Unfortunately, it's a trap, since Eggman figures out that the emerald is a fake and sends Sonic to outer space to explode. But by the power of Chaos Control, Sonic uses the fake emerald to teleport just in time to save himself. Okay, I know some people may disagree on this, but Sonic being able to use Chaos Control in his first try isn't as far-fetched as you may think. After all, he's already had plenty of experience with the Chaos Emeralds beforehand with Super Sonic, 3 times mind you, so him being able to use it on his first attempt even with a slightly weaker Chaos Emerald isn't as hard to believe. Once he recovers, Sonic takes care of Shadow one more time and succeeds in destroying the laser cannon, while Knuckles restores the Master Emerald after having a fight with Rouge. And Tails, after fighting Eggman, finds out Sonic is alive. However, the celebrations are cut short when Eggman is able to take the real Chaos Emerald and attach it to the cannon. Instead of being able to use the laser, an image of Dr. Eggman's grandfather pops up, and it's here where things get serious. The Ark suddenly changes its course to Earth, where it will destroy the entire planet. 50 years ago in the Ark, there was an attack by the military force GUN, aka Gun, who killed everyone on board it, including Dr. Gerald Robotnik's granddaughter, Maria. The death of Maria caused Gerald to lose his sanity and programmed the Ark to crash down to Earth once all 7 Chaos Emeralds were connected inside its core. And to make sure that happened, he programmed Shadow to follow the plan once he reawakened. Since there's not much time left, both Eggman and Sonic decide to work together to stop the calamity after Rouge figures out that they can stop the Ark by using the Master Emerald to neutralize the Chaos Emeralds. Everyone works together to enter the Ark's core, all except Shadow, who states that his mission is complete and that it's useless to help. But Amy is able to convince Shadow to give humanity a second chance, and this causes Shadow to have a flashback of Maria. I've unintentionally been keeping Shadow's story in the dark, so it's better to explain it here where it works. You see, Shadow's goal was to also destroy Earth not just because of Gerald's programming, but also because of Maria's dying wish. He and Maria were very close friends. All they had were each other. Now I believe due to the combinations of Maria's death and being frozen for over 50 years, this caused Shadow's memories to be hazy, leaving blank points like him thinking Maria wanted revenge, but it turned out to be the complete opposite. He remembers that Maria's dying wish was for him to give the human race a chance and protect them. Sonic and Knuckles make it to the Ark's core, where the emeralds have been kept, but they're stopped when the prototype of the ultimate life form, the Bio Lizard, shows up and stops them, but Shadow shows up just in time to keep the beast busy while the two hurry up and finish the job. Sonic and Knuckles are able to neutralize the Chaos Emeralds, but as a response, the Bio Lizard uses the power of Chaos Control to teleport and attach itself to the Ark, keeping its course to Earth. As a last resort, Sonic and Shadow use the Chaos Emeralds to transform into their super forms, and together, they're able to finally defeat the Bio Lizard once and for all, but it isn't over yet. The Ark is still falling down to Earth, so with their last bit of strength, both Hedgehogs use a final Chaos Control to teleport the Ark back into space, but at the cost of Shadow falling down to his death, keeping Maria's wish. Sonic, on the other hand, is completely unscathed. I'm not sure how he can be okay and not Shadow, as they both were using their full power in that last struggle. But in the end, our heroes reflect on what's happened, and they soon head back home, with Sonic giving Shadow a final goodbye, ending Sonic Adventure 2. Well now, I can definitely say without a doubt that this game's story is a lot better than Sonic Adventure 1's. The story is much more engaging and direct on what it wants to deliver, while the characters within the stories are just as entertaining as previously, better even. Unfortunately, I do have problems regarding the story itself. First of all, why did Gun suddenly start killing everyone within the Ark? What was the reason for all of it? Did Jiro's research become too much for them to control? Secondly, it's shown within the recording that Jiro was locked up in Prison Island. If Gun was recording this death threat, why didn't they deal with this as soon as they heard it could cause a human extinction? There's no logical explanation for why they never dealt with this much sooner. Thirdly, when and how did Jiro program the Ark to make a collision with Earth? Based on the message, Jiro was quickly arrested to no longer do any of his work. This problem also connects to the issue with Shadow. It's been stated a few times that Jiro reprogrammed Shadow's mind to continue the mission after his death. Once again, how would he be able to do that if he was immediately captured? Even though this does explain why Shadow's memories were foggy, it still leaves in that small plot hole. However, despite these few plot holes, when you break it down, this is overall an engaging story that I believe is much better than Adventure 1. While Adventure 1 did indeed plant the seeds for bigger storytelling, Adventure 2 evolves that to be more focused. It also helps that in this game, every character holds an important role one way or the other, something that I believe Adventure 1 lacked in with E102 Gamma and Big, two characters that I didn't really think have too much importance in the story. So yeah, the story for Sonic Adventure 2 was good. Now it's time for the second part of the game, the gameplay. And I got a lot to talk about for this one. Sonic Adventure 2 picks up the same elements as Sonic Adventure 1. We're once again playing a 3D platformer, but in this game, they made some changes when it comes to the game structure. For one, the game has become more linear based with both its levels and progression. The more open stages you may have been familiar with Adventure 1 have now been replaced with a more straightforward approach, meaning that stages will now look much smaller in certain areas like hallways, having the more point A to B approach without adding the C for exploration. Another thing to point out is that every character will not share the same stages as they once have in Adventure 1. Since every character was sharing a stage in that game, the levels need to be accustomed to all their different gameplay styles. In this game, the characters will have their own sets of levels that cater to their different skills. For Sonic and Shadow, we have their speed-based stages. For Knuckles and Rouge, we have their treasure hunting stages. And for Tails and Dr. Eggman, we have their mech shooting stages. This comes to the game's benefit as now the characters can now use their special gimmicks to the fullest without having to worry about any further adjustments. Another positive to talk about is that there's no longer hub worlds. Instead, when you complete a stage, you'll instantly be taken to the next one, keeping the game going without having to worry about finding the keys to unlock stages. It should be mentioned that I don't mind hub worlds in a Sonic game as long as they're not tedious and a waste of time, and at the very least give us nice scenery within the hub worlds that stick out. One issue that I have with the game is the camera. There will be many occasions where the camera will block my viewpoints of the character by showing over the walls, the ceilings, or even the obstacles themselves. Admittedly, this was a small issue in Adventure 1, but since that game was more open and bigger with the stages, the camera wasn't as much of an issue compared to this one. Now, let's get into the characters themselves. Sonic and Shadow, as I mentioned before, are speed-based. The task is simple: get to the goal and you'll beat the stage. When it comes to the level design, there are many times when we can see Sonic and Shadow reach higher numbers of speed than we could have in Adventure 1. As usual, the stages will let you test your skills of how fast you can go, the moves you can reach, and how quickly you can defeat the enemies. Enemies can be dealt with just as easily as before. Sonic and Shadow, like previously, can jump on enemies, use the homing attack, and the spin dash. Other upgrades they can acquire are the light speed dash shoes that let you dash through rings, and the new fireball attack that lets you break through metal boxes. A few of these moves need to be found in the stages, but you shouldn't have too much trouble finding them. When it comes to the number of stages they can play through, Sonic gets the majority while Shadow only gets 4, which seems odd considering he's a new character that you would think should have more stages. While we're at the topic, if you were to ask me which levels I would prefer between Adventure 1 and 2's, I would have to say 1. Because of Adventure 1's more open level design, I was able to come across a decent number of multiple pathways that led to different experiences whenever I decided to play them. They kept things fresh even though I played them many times. Since Sonic Adventure 2 is more focused on the linear approach, multiple pathways have been shrunken down to a noticeable degree. It should be stressed, I'm not saying Adventure 2 is lesser because of the design shift, I'm just saying that I prefer more Adventure 1's open levels. Control-wise, the Hedgehogs are great to handle. Once again, Sonic is very responsive with his controls, and the same is said with Shadow. Both characters, as you would think, have weight to their bodies, enough to make them feel natural rolling around at the speed of sound. Overall, the speed characters are great to control, and the levels they go through can be a fun finish. Now for the next characters, Dr. Eggman and Tails. Eggman and Tails' playstyle is very similar to Gamma's playstyle in Adventure 1, minus the time limit, shoot everything that moves, and get to the goal ring. You press the shoot button to shoot enemies that are in sight, and by holding it, you can lock onto a large number of them to shoot all at once. Returning upgrades include the hover pack that allows you to hover for a few seconds, and the blaster upgrade that pretty much makes your weapon stronger. Health is slightly different from the others since the mech shooters have a health bar from the machines. And to recover, you simply need to gather rings or the health boxes located in the item boxes themselves. Okay, we're up to a good start, but now we have to discuss the few main problems with this playstyle. One is the controls. Tails and Eggman can feel very clunky when on the move. Whenever I attempt to move left, right, or jump, there seems to be a struggle which has caused many deaths throughout my run. When I played as Gamma in Adventure 1, I had no trouble controlling him compared to these two, so I had to ask, what went wrong here? The controls aren't bad, but they are noticeable. When it comes to the structure of the stages, it's more platform focused where speed isn't the priority. In each stage, I found them to be pretty good on how they work. It's the outside issues that gave me the problems. I've already mentioned the controls, but now we have the camera. For some reason, you can't really control the camera while you're moving. The moment you attempt to do so, it will forcefully lock back to the position it wants you to look at. Now, this isn't always an issue if you're just running, but if you're trying to make safe jumps over things like moving blocks or platforms, don't be surprised when you die because of an improper view. My overall opinions for the mech shooting levels are okay, but they could have been better. It's cool that we finally get to play as Eggman for the first time, but it could have been so much more. And if you've been wondering this whole time why Tails is in a mech stage instead of his usual gig, that's a good observation and question. Based on the information I've gathered, it's revealed that Tails was originally not meant to be a playable character, much like Amy, who's here only in cutscenes. Once fans found out and begged for Tails to be playable, they pretty much gave him the Dr. Eggman formula, instead of giving him his flight abilities. While I would have much preferred to have his Adventure 1 playstyle, I'm grateful that he's at least playable here. Okay, I've been saving this one for last intentionally. This part of the game has made so many changes that I just couldn't agree on. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Knuckles and Rouge's treasure hunting stages. Oh boy. Just like in Adventure 1, the task is very much the same here. Look for the missing emerald pieces to collect in order to complete the stage. Just as simple as before, but with a twist. Instead of the radar being able to track the emeralds all at once, you're now forced to find them one at a time. Oh, you can still find the shard without the radar going off, but the issue here is that if it's not the one the radar wants you to look for, you would have never known the shard was there to begin with. For example, I enter a stage and start looking for the emerald shards. I search in one area, but the radar doesn't seem to be going off. I search in the next section of the stage, the radar goes off, and I manage to find one piece. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to where I was previously, and now the radar wants to go off. The reason why I find this upsetting is because the game is no longer giving us the option to choose. It also doesn't help that they mess with the hint systems. In Adventure 1, if you were lost, Takal will always lead you in the right direction. It was a very helpful guide system. But since she's not in this game, we're now forced to ask for the computers for assistance. That gives hints that you would not know unless you were playing this game multiple times. And when you eventually progress further, the hint systems are backwards. What the heck is this? Lastly, there's a problem with the levels themselves. They're either too claustrophobic or too big. Take Aqua Mines and Death Chambers for example. Two stages that love having you search endlessly in their tight small halls that might as well be mazes, especially Mad Chambers where everything almost looks the same. Then we have our bigger stages such as Pumpkin Hill, Meteor Herd, and Mad Space. Oh god, these two. Now Pumpkin Hill, while a big stage, isn't as bad seeing as you have 3 areas with a stage to look for the hidden emerald pieces. But these two right here, Meteor Herd and Mad Space, are by far my least favorite stages in the entire game, period. These stages are the walking definition of bigger isn't always better, especially in Mad Space where the gravity feels very clunky. Because of how ridiculously huge the stages are, the possibilities of finding all the emerald shards within a short time frame is almost impossible. With every issue I've mentioned for the treasure hunting stages, this is pretty much the most time consuming segment for the game for the wrong reasons. There's even this one stage in Rouge's campaign, Security Hall, where you're required to find the Chaos Emeralds within 5 minutes, otherwise the place will explode. So yeah, overall, Knuckles and Rouge's treasure hunting is not my cup of tea. Sonic and Shadow's speed stages, and even Tails and Eggman's mech stages are much better parts to play than this, and it's all because they messed with something that was completely fine in the first game. Thankfully, I have Stage Select, which gives me the ability to choose whatever stage and character I want whenever I want to replay the game. I suppose the next thing to mention is the boss fights. Honestly, I found the fights to be okay. None of them really gave me much of a hard time. The battle with the Egg Golem for both Sonic and Eggman was a good fight. The Ghost King simply has to use the light to take him down with Knuckles. I didn't even have much of a hard time with Biolizard, with one exception. The first phase was a little trouble since not only do you need to worry about avoiding the Liquid Sea, or else you'll die, but you also need to avoid his floating red orbs while trying to attack his core. Once the Phase 2 battle hits, with both Super Sonic and Super Shadow, I had no issues, just avoid his lasers and dash into his bumps. Then we have the returning Rebel battles, and just like before, they aren't really that good. Sonic and Shadow are all about who can jump and dash at each other the most, Tails and Eggman is simply a shooting fest, and Knuckles and Rouge are all about who can slam each other's heads. Besides the story stuff, there's additional content for the player to do. The emblems make a return from Adventure 1, and if you want to collect them all, you need to go on Stage Select and complete every mission inside that specific stage. You may have also noticed letters. Those are your ranks, with the highest being A. If you want to gather every emblem possible, you need to complete every normal stage and every mission with the A rank, which also includes the Chow Garden. Personally, I haven't done all of them yet, seeing as I have little reason to do so, but speaking of the Chow Garden, this also makes a return. I didn't really mention it before because I wasn't interested in what it had to offer, but in this game, I decided to give it a chance. Chow raising can be a very addicting thing to do if you were ever interested in a pet simulator. You can send them to competitions, feed them, pet them, and even increase their stats for better performance by gathering these crystal shards in the normal stages and also collecting small animals so they can absorb their power? Overall, the Chow Garden was a nice distraction outside of the normal gameplay. Now it's time for the graphics, which is by far the better looking game than Adventure 1, without a doubt. The characters look way much better than the first, and every character involving movement is super clean, and no longer has that stiff, awkward movement. This also includes the facial expressions that have become much more expressive and clear than before. The voice acting has also evolved. The voice cast from Adventure 1 makes a return here, and all of them sound great, understanding the roles they're playing. I just wish I could have said the same thing for the sound mixing when it comes to lip syncing and music. You see, when they made the cutscenes for Adventure 2, the lip syncing was more focused on the Japanese dialogue rather than the English. Because of this, there are plenty of moments when the characters will cut each other's lines out from one another.
I found you, faker!
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough to be
I'll
my
make you eat those words! I don't know what this space colony is all about, but I'll find and destroy that cannon, and then kick their imperial butts!
Alright!
It also doesn't help that the music is extremely loud in certain cutscenes, to the point that you can barely hear what they're saying. What? I can't hear you! What are you even saying? What? You're going to have to speak up! What? The soundtrack by itself is good though, but I still believe Adventure 1 beats it. It just had more variety in its music. The whole soundtrack here focuses more on rock music. Not to say that I don't like rock music, I really do. It's one of my personal favorites. The only two characters that don't have rock music are Knuckles and Rouge. Rouge is more on the jazz side that's nice to listen to, while Knuckles is filled with plenty of cringy rap music, with Pumpkin Hill being my most guilty favorite. I can hear some of you judging me, leave me alone, I have no shame. When it comes to the music I do like, Escape from the City is my #1 favorite to listen to, and the second being Live and Learn, an awesome final battle theme that's great for a finale. Well now, it's about time I wrap this up with something else Adventure 2 has to offer. So not long after the first release, a re-release of Adventure 2 came out for the Nintendo GameCube called Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. In it came with additional content similar to Adventure 1 DX, that being a fully unlocked multiplayer. In the original version on the Dreamcast, the only way you can unlock everything on multiplayer was by collecting every single emblem possible. In Adventure 2 Battle, everything in multiplayer is now available. You can race to the goal with your speed characters, you can blast it out with your mech characters, and find the emerald pieces the fastest with the treasure hunters. Every level is unlocked, and all the bonus characters that you couldn't play as in the main story are all available. Those being Amy Rose, Metal Sonic, Tikal, and Chaos Zero. Whenever you or a friend collects a certain number of rings, your ability bar will activate, allowing you to use a speed boost or a special move that can either stun or stop players for a few seconds. The multiplayer here is definitely the best one so far. Whenever I come back to this, I'm either playing most of the speed stages or playing with my friends or siblings. So, after everything that I've said, what do I think of Sonic Adventure 2? Well, the cutscenes definitely surpass the first, the story is much more engaging, and even though I may disagree with certain gameplay elements involving the treasure hunting stages that worked better in Adventure 1, I still believe this is a good game. It's not the best Sonic game, but it's definitely not the worst either. With that said, everyone have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.